Hello. I finished Trent LeBlanc yesterday, and maybe gearing up for Amadis of Gaul. I'm gonna have to look up actually how to say Amadis. I'm saying Amadis, but maybe you don't say that. I mean, it's Amadi, and you don't pronounce that S. But before I do that, I figured I'd take a little break today and read from Don Quixote, the Edith Grossman translation. And there's actually something in particular that struck me because throughout the book there has been some poems kind of quoted, and they haven't really done it for me. But I found one. I found one in my reading today on page 572 of the Grossman translation that I actually kind of responded to and wanted to talk about. It is through the words of a poem by Don Lorenzo, who is the student son of a wealthy fellow, Don Diego, who is kind of, he's wealthy. He's got like, he has a couple of, he has actually has owns some books. His kind of his favorite pastimes are hunting and hunting and something else there, hunting and fishing. And just basically being with his family, enjoying his life, enjoying his family, trying to do good when he can do good, but not in a kind of a vainglorious kind of way. His one concern about his son Don Lorenzo, who is a student, and as some young students are wont to do, he's totally into poetry. And Don Diego's kind of worried about him in the sense of like, well, you're not going to make a living by this, and he'd really prefer if you kind of like would get into law or something that you could feed yourself with, which is the the concern of parents in all times. This is like the early 1600s that were this is set, but. Don Lorenzo, and Don Quixote's like, oh, actually, no, you've got the money. You should really kind of encourage him. And he does actually get Don Lorenzo to actually recite some poetry, and it's a gloss, which is sort of doing I think it's kind of like a restatement of some verses into your own verses. And actually, what does Don Quixote say about it? A wise friend of mine, responded Don Quixote, was of the opinion that nobody ought to tire of glossing verses, and the reason he said was that the gloss could never approach the text, and that many or most times the gloss strayed from the intention and purpose of what the text proposed. Moreover, the laws of the gloss were too strict, for they did not allow questions, or he said, or I shall say, or the making of verbs into nouns, or changing the significance, along with the other restrictions and regulations that set limits for those who write glosses, as your grace must know. And indeed, Don Lorenzo is pretty impressed by that, saying like, well, you're kind of crazy sometimes, but other times you seem to talk so much sense. But then, yes, so Don Lorenzo actually does recite it, and he starts off with, here's the text. If my was would be and is, if my was would be and is, not waiting for a will be, or if at last the time would come when later is now and here. So that's the text, and here's his gloss. At last, since all things passed, the good that fortune gave me passed too, though once overflowing, and never to me returned, neither scant nor in abundance. Not for centuries, O fortune, have you seen me at your feet. Make me contented once more. My great good fortune will be, if my was would be and is. I wish no joy or glory, neither honor nor victory, no other triumph or conquest, but to return to the joy that's nothing but grief in memory. If you can return me there, O fortune, this fiery torment will ease. Do it now, I pray, not waiting for a will be. What I ask is the impossible, for there is no force on earth that has the power to turn back time that has passed us by, to bring back what once was ours, Time races, it flies, it changes, time races, it flies, it charges past, and will never return. And only a fool would beg a halt. Or if time would pass, or if at last the time would come, I live a life in perplexity, torn between hoping and fear. This is a death in life for me. Much better to end my sorrow and die the death of the tomb. And though my wish is to end my life, my reason tells me no, and hands me back my gloomy life, in terror of that after time, when later is now and here. So I found this really kind of affecting in a lot of ways. And I mean, I can't help but think about the character of Don Quixote, and how Don Quixote is somebody who kind of fundamentally is yearning for a time past of being a knight errant, of being, when men would go on quests and were always there to protect the weak and the innocent and right wrongs and be completely moral Christian soldiers. And this being kind of that expression of like, yes, you're yearning for a time past that probably was never been. And it's got that kind of sadness to it, that kind of quiet, just kind of like, I wish, that was, I want to be now, but it can never be now. And Don Quixote loves this poem. Don Quixote rose to his feet, and in a loud voice that was almost a shout, and grasping Don Lorenzo's right hand in his own, he said, "Praise be to heaven on high, magnanimous youth, for you are the best poet on earth, and you deserve to be crowned with a laurel wreath, not by Cyprus or Gaeta, as a poet once said. May God forgive him, again, and he goes on in that very exuberant Don Quixote way. I think it really touches him in that kind of a deep fashion. But it is kind of striking, like, now reading, because like I just responded to it as a poem as it was read. But I can see how it fits so well into the story of Don Quixote as well. So I just wanted to share that with you. So that's the gloss from page 572 of Don Quixote in the Edith Grossman translation. More videos later.